Eyewitness Sports.
Welcome to episode 15 of WPRI Double OT with Mark Dondero, our first remote Mark with you in Williamsport throughout the week, covering Warwick North Little League. We'll get to them in just a bit. Our first topic, Mark, Patriots preseason tonight. Tom Brady's not going to play. He's going to play. He's not going to play. Bill Belichick saying he would less than a half hour before the game on their pre-talk on 98.5. Ultimately, he was seen in street clothes minutes before the game. Any suspicion as to why ultimately Brady didn't play tonight when word was he was going to play?
Not really. I'm not going to speculate, but I will say I don't think it's a good thing. I don't think it's a good thing that all of a sudden after Bill Belichick says on the radio that Tom Brady is going to play in preseason game number 2, that he doesn't play. I don't know why he wouldn't play. I don't think it's a big deal if I had to guess, but the coach just said he doesn't say much to the media typically, but he usually doesn't mislead that bad where just before the game he'd say one thing and then another thing happens unless I'm just forgetting something. So I don't know why Tom Brady didn't play. I don't think it's a great thing. I don't think it's a good news for the Patriots. And the other reason is because I don't know why he wouldn't play. He's not going to play until October. So don't you want to get him some live snaps? I know he's Tom Brady, but still, a game is different than joint practices. Practice. I don't know why he wouldn't play, and I don't know why he didn't end up playing tonight.
Yeah, I think all along the thought was that he was supposed to play, get him those reps because he is going to miss the first 4 games. My only theory is we know how early, Mark, Tom Brady gets to games. Maybe he's there 3-4 hours before doing some of his agility work with the trainer and maybe kind of tweak something where he's not feeling great. No word of that to Bill Belichick until the last minute, at which point Bill is just like, we're not going to risk it. That is my only thought, because what could transpire in the hour or 2 before the game that would prevent Tom Brady from playing? So definitely a bizarre thing transpiring in Foxborough, but hopefully we'll see Tom Brady in week 3 going forward.
No, I like that theory, and like I said, I don't think it would be something serious, but eyebrows certainly were raised. Hey, maybe he got into a fight with the Bears that we didn't know about. Maybe that's why Tom Brady actually isn't playing, because the Patriots were involved in a few skirmishes over the course of the week. Why do you think that happened, and do you like the fact that the Patriots and Bears mixed it up a little bit physically?
Well, my theory is that the Bears came into Foxborough. They're a team that have hovered around the 8-8 mediocre mark for the last few seasons. They're coming to New England. They're going to see the preeminent franchise in this league. So they're saying, hey, let's try to play with the big boys. How tough are these guys? Let's get in their faces. And ultimately, on the football field, no matter what the mantra is from the Patriots, do your job, be accountable, all those things. Excuse me, Mark. When someone pushes you, you're going to push them back. So I think the Bears kind of started it to make a correlation to a bunch of 8-year-old boys in the backyard, but the Patriots fought back, and that's why it happened. I think it is good. Listen, there's so much monotony around camp. The guys talk about it, and it breaks it up. Get into it with another team, and we'll see if that, manifests itself into tonight's preseason game. But I think it was a good thing overall. Malcolm Butler, a guy got kicked out as one of the leaders on your team defensively. I was happy with that, as long as he's not drawing 15-yard penalties during the course of the season. And Brian Stork, it's always good to have a head case or 2 on your offensive line. He also got thrown out one practice. So I'm all for the skirmishes during practice.
Yeah, I don't really care. I mean, Brian Stork, like you said, it's nice to have a mean guy along that offensive line. But fights, those things happen. Stork has been, we remember the huge penalty he had in the AFC Championship game where he headbutted somebody on a third down or second. So Stork specifically, I'm not really in love with him because he's proven he at times, shows a lack of discipline, especially in big moments. So, I don't need him to prove to me at all that he's willing to, put his dukes up. But overall, you said Malcolm Butler. We know he's got some dogs, some fight in him. I don't really care. It happens. Like you said, it shows some tenacity, some intensity. It's fine with me.
All right, let's switch gears now. Talk a little Red Sox. Tough loss for the Sox in their opener in Detroit. Again, the bullpen letting them down. They had won 6 in a row prior to today, Mark. So if the playoffs began today, they would make it as a wild card team. But to maintain that position as a playoff team, what do the Red Sox need to figure out?
Well, a lot of people are going to the bullpen and how the bullpen has been suspect, to say the least, and obviously today that was the situation. What do they need to do for me to believe in their postseason prowess, if you will? Well, I don't know if I can describe it. It seems like it's one of those things you just know it when you see it. If I had to try to describe it, because this is what we do on the show, we talk, I guess what I would say is I want to see them win games, close games, lower scoring games against good teams. That would be the biggest thing, the thing that could get me fastest to the place of where I believe in this team in a postseason situation. They have had a nice run, but those teams they've played, not the best competition. That's fine. You got to beat those teams, but if they can beat good teams going forward, especially with all these games on the road, and do it in games that are close, that are postseason-like, low-scoring games, that would impress me, and then I think I'd be prepared to make the purchase and buy into them.
Yeah, if you look at their record, one-run games in which they don't score more than 3 runs, it's not very good. So I completely agree with you. They need to learn to win the 3-2 game, the 4-3 game, the 5-4 game, and I think it does come down to the bullpen. I think generally speaking, the rotation has shored itself up over the second half of this season, but right now I don't trust Tazawa. I don't trust Alejandro Dada, the new guy, and so I think Kimbrel, when you can start trusting him a little bit more, and just those back end of the bullpen guys, maybe Papelbon they bring in here, but I think you got to shore up the bullpen, because we've seen time and time again these postseason games end up being one-run games. You need the clutch hit. You need to win games at which the Red Sox aren't putting up 7 or 8 runs.
Look, here's the deal. We've seen the offense perform, but they have the offense, but do they have the starting pitching? Well, the starting pitching has come around, but are they known for their starting pitching at this point? No. And the bullpen. Usually you have at least one or the other, a great bullpen or great starting pitching. Right now, I wouldn't say they have either. They're better with the starters. We'll have to see how this plays out. They do have the Red Sox, Mookie Betts, and that's huge. He's excellent, been insane, really. You wrote down here in the email, what's his ceiling? So what is his ceiling?
All right, so I think Mookie Betts' ceiling is a perennial all-star, a guy that hits 315, 30, and 100, gets on base, steals 20 bases, and plays good defense. I'm kind of having trouble, Mark, finding a parallel, a player to look at. He's not as big physique-wise as a Ken Griffey Jr. Maybe a Barry Bonds, thin, skinny Barry Bonds in his Pittsburgh days, a guy that can do everything, hit for pop, steal bases, hit for average. But in the last 15 years, I'm kind of having trouble. I heard the Andrew McCutchen parallel today. Generally speaking, perennial all-star, MVP candidate. But I would throw him in a young Bonds, Griffey, Andrew McCutchen type tier in terms of potential and what they can do in terms of a 5-tool player. But this is year 2, and we're seeing them blossom right in front of our eyes. So I guess in the end, the sky is the limit for this guy.
Yeah, I like that. I like him being a perennial all-star. It's hard to make the leap that he's going to be Willie Mays. Willie Mays was about 5'10", not that much bigger than Mookie Betts. I obviously never saw him play, but I wouldn't be surprised if Betts has I know they're different type of players, but I wouldn't be surprised if Betts had a resume maybe similar to a Gary Sheffield. Not an all-time great, but he was an all-star a bunch of times, all kinds of offensive numbers, good in the field, really good, solid player. And he was just, one of the guys that was the centerpiece, one of the centerpieces on good teams throughout a lot of his career. Obviously, he was with the Yankees for those years where they were contending for World Series. So I think he could end up as something like that. Who knows? Could be in the Hall of Fame. I mean, look at these numbers. But I'm not going to go there quite yet in year 2 or whatever.
By the way, Mark, great people watching behind you throughout this show. Some kids behaving themselves, others not. All right, let's switch gear. You're at the Little League World Series.
Do this. Hold on. If somebody's coming up behind me, and you see it happening, let me know, and I'll scare the bleep out of them, and they won't even know what's coming.
All right, the Little League World Series, the other big international event is, of course, the Olympics out in Rio. This Ryan Lochte story is completely bonkers, bananas, off the wall. He says they got assaulted, the 4 of them, at a gas station. Then the Brazilian police say he wasn't assaulted. Then his teammates throw him under the bus and say he made up the story. Now they're doubling down and saying it happened. What do you make of this?
Oh, man. Okay. I have nothing to say to Ryan Lochte. This guy needs to go home. Ryan Lochte has way too much Alex Rodriguez in him. And what I mean by that is, all the talent in the world, gold medal, whatever. This guy doesn't know how to handle the success. This guy doesn't know anything. This isn't some kid. This guy is 32 years old. He's not some kid. He gets into the fight, whatever, in a gas station, and they concoct this story that they got robbed at gunpoint. What are you trying to say? What are you trying to do? The best compliment I can give Ryan Lochte is that he had a failed reality show. Because usually if you have a successful reality show, you're a mess. You're a circus. He at least had a failed reality show. So, at least he's not that ridiculously messed up that people didn't really want to watch because it was too normal. So that's all I can say about Ryan Lochte. But why you would decide to lie and create some story makes no sense to me. He's a 32-year-old man, not some kid. Do better.
It's preposterous, and it's laughable what he's done. What I think happens is he and his buddies, his teammates, are done swimming, the first week of Rio. So they have all this time to kill for the second week. They want to live it up, party in Rio. They have too much to drink. They get in this little scuffle at the gas station, and they're like, all right, we're Olympic swimmers. Let's cover this up in case anything gets out, and we're going to become the victim. Let's fabricate this story. Something about Ryan Lochte, he wants to be like the coolest kid in class, and he's not, or the best swimmer, and he's not. Michael Phelps is. So he's always he has that stupid Jack catchphrase. He's always trying to fabricate or manipulate himself into the discussion, but he's just a second place kind of guy, and the whole thing is bonkers, and apparently he and his teammate are going to be indicted by the Brazilian police. So an international tragedy, perhaps. As we continue with the Olympics, one last question before we touch on the Little League. Overall impressions of Rio thus far, Mark?
Well, obviously, I love what Michael Phelps did for America. What a performance, what an athlete. However, my big takeaway is Usain Bolt. Mainly because that kind of sport, explosiveness, based on everything I've ever known about sports, explosiveness and speed, that is the first thing that goes. And this man is winning the 100-meter dash, which is, in my opinion, the pinnacle of the Summer Olympics, the fastest man in the world. He wins it 3 Olympics in a row. Unbelievable. Half the time he wins and he's laughing his way to the finish line. The most fun I have during the Summer Olympics is watching Usain Bolt run that race, the 100, and I loved it again this year. That's my big takeaway, and I love what Phelps did, but Bolt is the number one thing for me.
Yeah, piggybacking on that, I think we're seeing history, perhaps the greatest sprinter and greatest swimmer of all time in Michael Phelps and Usain Bolt. So be able to tell your kids and grandkids, I saw these guys at their absolute peak, both of them at the tail end of their Olympic careers, still doing tremendous things. Katie Ledecky, the female swimmer, obviously our local folks, Elizabeth Beisel battling injuries, coming back for a nice performance. Louisa Chafee, she was close to medaling in sailing. And of course the women's gymnastics team, always fun to watch. Simone Biles, arguably the greatest female gymnast in history. So we're seeing a lot of all-timers out there in Rio. All right, Mark, let's wrap it up with the Little League. I know you're out there. What's the vibe?
Yeah, it's a great vibe. It's one of the best events of the summer. What I want to know, though, from you is, based on the things you watch sports-wise during the summer, where does the Little League World Series rank in the pantheon of sporting events during the summer months?
All right, so it's a little bit different for us because for what we do, we're invested in it through Warwick North and through our job, and we love cheering it on with local people. Let's say, I'm 18 or 12, growing up, where does it rank? Without a Rhode Island team maybe in it. It's up there. I have it after the Summer Olympics, an Olympic year. I have it after the Major League Baseball All-Star Game, after, normal everyday Red Sox games, and I'll throw the U.S. Open golf in there. I'll put it ahead of Wimbledon. I'll put it ahead of the British Open. Preseason football game 4 or 1, not 2 or 3. So it's right up there. upper half, I'd say. It's good TV. It's fun seeing 12-year-olds, at their peak performance on this international stage, because that is just the purest joy there is a 12-year-old playing baseball, right?
Of course. As far as if I'm going to rank it, it definitely is not in front of any of the golf majors, the PGA, the Open Championship, or the U.S. Open. I put it with Wimbledon. It's one of those things, and I like tennis, but watching tennis for long periods of time, I can't do that. I would put it with Wimbledon in the sense that I have to turn it on. I would feel bad if I didn't turn it on. I would feel like I was missing something, or I have to turn it on. I enjoy watching it. I played in this tournament. It makes me feel a little annoyed because of how my team performed when we were in Williamsport. Obviously not anywhere near the Little League World Series, but in the tournament itself.
You played in Williamsport?
So that annoys me.
You played in Williamsport?
Well, yeah, we all played in the played in the Williamsport tournament, which starts at the lowest of levels in the town. I didn't play
thought you were on the big stage. You weren't on ESPN. I thought you were on ESPN.
But no, not even close. Not even close. But it's still the Williamsport tournament, and even when you're playing at the local levels, it feels different. It feels bigger. So I watch it because of that. It is with Wimbledon. Yeah, it's different for me than the All-Star game, because that's a one-night event, the MLB All-Star game. So yeah, it's not the Olympics when the Olympics happens, but it is something that I go out of my way to make sure that I watch every single year when it's on.
All right, good stuff, Mark. That'll do it for this edition of Double OT, our first from someone being in a remote spot. So that's good for us, I suppose. See this? We don't miss a beat. Catch the full episode on WPRI.com. Follow our social media pages, hashtag WPRI Double OT. Mark will be seeing you from Williamsport throughout the weekend. And thanks so much for watching.